Welcome back to our crypto wrap up. I had to take off the weekly because I know that we've been a bit busy here the last 2 weeks, so we haven't had an update. So I first off want to say thank you guys for all of the support. Second thing is I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, as well as in let's see what type of opportunities are going to present itself on update with these charts. You guys know, just as we do every week, we are starting with our Bitcoin dominance and what's been going on here, guys. Of course, since we started this YouTube series, we were basically in the beginning runs of this leg down on the support levels for Bitcoin dominance. And as you see here, we've basically been ranging since then. We've hit this level or come into this area of support here quite a few times. And when we thought we were going to break out of there, we actually did not. I'm sorry, we thought that we were going to continue lower, but we had this big rejection here from support. And since then, we've retested and are moving higher. So what can that really indicate to us? One, that if the price of Bitcoin is going higher, and I wouldn't even put emphasis on higher, if it's retracing, then we might see Bitcoin be the trigger to move the market to give us another relief rally. And or if Bitcoin is going lower, then we might see Bitcoin not have as a sharp decline as we would see with the alts. And why is that? Typically when people are booking profits in a bear or bull market, then they tend to book them either into Bitcoin because it's less volatile and or stable coins. To learn more about that, make sure you check out the links in description for my link tree about our classes. Now, when we take a look once again, what's going on here, we have these arrows here from the last time that we were in our Zoom. We were talking about with Bitcoin dominance, which is what we have here from the last time that we did our YouTube video. We were looking at the price of Bitcoin, coming up, which it did. Like I said, we're on the weekly chart here now, but essentially we bounced from an area of support, and that's indicated here by this area that we were going to pull back lower, and we couldn't even get close enough to that area of support. So this was the area of support that we broke out of, and we were retracing to come back higher, indicated by this arrow going higher. So now what's going on here? We're still trending above an area of resistance, area of support with overhead resistance really not far away. And as you see here to the left, back in early November, we were at these levels and unable to break higher. And given when we take a look, which is very, very interesting here, we take a look at this pattern that's been playing out. A lot of times it may be difficult to see depending on the area in which you're looking. We've are making some great support levels that we haven't been able to break below. So that is, once again, no indication that we are flipping into a bull, but we may experience a relief rally. It's giving that typically when the stock market goes higher, crypto usually followed. And during this really massive rally that the stock market and stock market indices had when the dollar was declining, we didn't get much movement from crypto. And the reason why is because fundamental news was driving crypto in a negative fashion. So we're paying attention here because we see that this level, let's go ahead and just remove that real quick so we can see things much clearer. And guys, this is also why I recommend to use TradingView, because you can get a much clearer understanding of what's happening. So what's going on here? Notice where we're at, where the support level is, and us getting above it. And we have almost immediate resistance up above. So that's to say that if we do see some price action in Bitcoin and we climb a little bit higher till we retest those areas of supports, then it wouldn't be unnatural then to come back there. Given there's a lot of resistance in this area, it has rejected it multiple times in the past. And given that we're still, really, really, really in a bear market. And so we want to see what price does for us at those levels. Give or take, if we just range here and really don't go higher, I'm thinking a spike possibly. Then we trade sideways and fall lower, pretty much like we did here. Trade it sideways and drop lower. Not to say that history repeats itself, but history has proven with financial assets to give us applicable data about what is more potentially capable of happening in the future. So guys, that is Bitcoin dominance. We want to see if we're going to continue sideways trading, lead it into the news for CPI this coming week, and or are we going to dump and do the opposite? Because we know that sometimes with fundamental news, the reactions of the market can be very mixed, and it's very capable to see on the charts. So guys, that's Bitcoin dominance. And now with Bitcoin itself, what's happened here in the last few weeks? So we know we had this massive sell-off because of what happened with FTX. So fundamentally, that was the bearish news we were looking for. However, technically, it's a play that we've been waiting to happen. And what's happened since then is we just basically been trading sideways, aka having a relief rally. And much like what we've been doing here in the past, really since last year, we've been making these relief rallies ultimately giving us lower prices. And so now, like I said, this bearish flag that we're in now is still kind of playing out, still dancing around. So could it mean that we get a little bit more of a rally heading through the rest of the year, aka what's different people tend to call the Santa rally? So I'm not expecting, once again, a whole lot of price action, anything to dance within this channel, aka flag, that, I'm not expecting us to completely change trend. I'm waiting for this to play out because we know that we've talked about for months now that we want to see Bitcoin make a lower low, and we're not sure exactly what's going to give us that, but we are expecting that play out to happen. Now, give or take, we bounce around in between here. That still doesn't negate the trend that we've been in. Okay, guys, so hold on to that. That is Bitcoin. Allow this pattern to continue to play itself out until we make our decision about what to do in effect of where the market takes us next. And now with Ethereum, what's been going on here? We have not been able to make higher highs since ETH 2.0. And since then, once again, like that FTX sell-off we saw with Bitcoin, we saw the same thing with Ethereum. And what it essentially did was backtest an area of support that we previously held. And because we had tested it twice, and the third time we're slightly trading higher. And as you see here, that is an indication in case price wanted to make a spike, given that this is an area of resistance that fell through here on the FTX crash, that it would not surprise me of two occasions that would happen here. Okay, let's also move those out of the way. Okay, that is to say that we've been trading sideways, and the only thing we did was really come to the top of this. So now that we're actually looking at it, we got the spike right to that area that we were looking for. That we might get one more push and a drop, or we're tapping out and we're going to get this flush. And that's very possible, given, like I said, the structure of Ethereum is a bit different from Bitcoin, and alts tend to follow what Ethereum does. So what Ethereum does here is going to tell us a lot. But like once again, I said, we're waiting to see if we're going to get that last spike before we go head lower. And we know that Bitcoin can help with the indication for that, as well in what's going on with the Bitcoin dominance. So guys, that is Ethereum. Now Solana. I really keep up with this one because I have some great people and great communities that we're in together. And, we had a big stinker here last couple weeks, almost about a month ago, where we had this wonderful fundamental news where a company had adopted software to run nodes. If I misquoted that, I apologize, but just take a look, search Solana news and what happened during that time. But there was great news, and what it did was it just pushed us right into the reaction zone. I went and grabbed that liquidity one more time, and then the sell-off happened with FTX. And what's been going on since then, we made new lows, which is what we were expecting, even lower than some of the ones that we had charted. So we knew that move was coming. And since then, we had made a temporary bottom at a little bit over $10. And since then, we've been trading sideways, attempting to get above this resistance area at 15. Give me 1 second. Let me rechart that. Okay. Which was about $17. That's what we'd have wanted to see. This would coincide with a relief rally if we were expecting it on Bitcoin. But as you notice, everything has still been trading sideways. And the longer that price plays in a sideways fashion, staying closer to support and having overhead resistance above a major area of resistance, then we can see price dance around and or fall lower and or prices pop higher. So this was a note that I had specifically for this chart, once again, because of the community members that I share my analysis with. But I wrote this note here on the 3rd. The price of Solana is currently trading sideways. If Bitcoin turns higher, we have to break $15 to push towards 17 or 18. However, if we fail again to reach 15, we expect price to come down toward 15. So, I'm sorry, towards 13. I have to correct that note. But essentially, as you see here, we kept tagging that support at $13. However, we're in a very tight range where price has rejected $15 once again, and we're, slightly trending higher, but can't make much of that. There's not a lot of activity going. And this is why it always helps to check the different ranges of time for your charts so you can get a more ideal, realistic, and real-time approach about what's going on in the market. So as you see here, like I say, guys, we made this nice rounded bottom, and pretty much where all of crypto bounced out, and we had attempted to break this neckline and rejected it many times, and now we've just been trading sideways. And so, like I said, given what's going on in the market, if we're expecting some relief, then maybe we get right above 15 or as close to 15 and then head lower, because we know that once again, if we're expecting prices to drop with Bitcoin, then if we're expecting prices to, let me remove that. We're expecting prices in Bitcoin to come lower, then essentially the rest of the market will also do the same. So we either start falling now, and or we get a spike into this area, and then we get our leg lower. And yes, guys, I see a $10 and saw a sub $10 bottom. So don't be too afraid that we can see this. We've been talking about it. We were expecting it. But if we don't get that now, then we're going to go get some relief out of what's going on. And give or take, the only thing that will push us above these levels is, really bad news with the dollar at that point. Really bad news for the dollar. But as you see in the past, like I said, we had a hard time getting here. So just keep that in mind. We will keep an eye on this. Like I said, we've been trading sideways for weeks, and we danced around between $2 between support and resistance. So that lets us know there's not a lot of volatility essentially happen with anything in the market. But just keep an eye for the spiking to see what it is that we ultimately do. So guys, that is Solana. Now, our next one up is XRP. We visited this one a long time ago. This arrow here is from the time when we actually went over this chart, and we hit that level. And not only did we hit that level, we retested this same level and failed. And we know when you fail resistance, you come to support. And essentially, another retest and another leg lower. And we know that, oh my God, this price level for Ripple goes so far back. Let's see here, that it's been an area of, support and resistance in the past. So that's to let us know that it could dance around there for a little bit. And given that we've been consolidating for a while now with what's going on with Bitcoin, it's no expectation to think that Ripple might do something different. So we can tag here one more time if we choose, and or we start going to those levels of support. And so Ripple, once again, is an altcoin. So the makeup of the structure looks more closely towards an altcoin than it would, for example, for Bitcoin. And so we know that, of course, if we're expecting lower levels, then essentially that's what we're looking at, a retest of $31 to see if we're going to start to get that rounding out fashion that we have seen so many times with the other patterns, both in the bear and bull market. So that's Ripple. I know this is a favorite to many, but we just keep eye on that. All right, so guys, that is Ripple. Now, the DXY, so very important. We know that we have been watching this from the time, I believe it was this price action here. We have been watching the DXY, expecting that sometime in the future we do hit $1.20. But as of right now, that's our top. And we had too many areas of resistance being hit where we topped out multiple times. And I knew once we broke and closed below here that essentially we were going to see what we saw with the rest of the patterns that we saw today. What makes this whole thing different is because this was a relief rally and made lower prices. However, this relief rally should have, the drop that we experienced with the dollar is nowhere reflective of the other risk on assets that actually started taking off, like gold, silver, and the stock market. Bitcoin has not performed well, even as the dollar has not performed well, which makes you beg to think what else is possibly going on with that, but we'll leave that alone. However, we were expecting these levels of support to be reached. We didn't know how, when, or how long the process would take, but it happened. And guess what? We closed above it once. Well, actually, we didn't close. We broke below once came back and retested, and we closed with this pin bar move here at support. And it becomes interesting because if it dances around, much like what we saw with Bitcoin, if it starts dancing around support, then we can continue some sideways movement with the rest of the market, or selling pressure, what like we happen to see with the stock market this week itself. So if it's doing its back test and unable to hold, then it would not, surprise me at all if we started doing something like this. It's either going to dance around these area of support, given that it was an area of support in the past, and start to trend a little bit higher. And then we take another drop lower. Let's take that off of there. And or does this just do enough to start to take us towards the bull market? Now, once again, if we take all the information that we gathered here from the day, we know that when the dollar topped out here back in September, that the stock market made a bottom, temporary bottom, so to say. And from there, it rallied as the dollar declined. Yet when you check the Bitcoin chart, we weren't taken off. Like I said, September, we look at what happened in September, the time in which the stock market was rallying. We were making very minimal relief rallies. So we have to keep an eye on why that is. And I'm sure more information will be made available for us to interpret. But if you look at what's going on here, it stopping there is very ideal. However, if you look at everything that's going on here, it literally broke structure. Let's see here. It's not going to be perfect, but it was going higher. It was going higher for say. And it broke. And notice, although, like I said, this is not a trend line, it's not drawn perfect. What did it do? Retest, 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 lower. Now, lower, retest, climbing. So for this area to be revisited would not surprise me at all. Now, given, once again, like we mentioned earlier, the only way for us to see this is if we get news that is in the favor of the dollar and the sell-off for the stock market continues. Yet we keep an eye to see if that fundamental news actually starts to take effect with Bitcoin, although it's been doing its own thing since then. So guys, that's really the play that we're looking at here, is to see if this dollar index is just going to dance around for the remainder of the year, given that we tend to have relief rallies for risk on assets towards the end of the year, so that people can buy back in to have lower entry, reducing their cost of taxes. But that's for another lesson, guys. So thank you. Great to catch up with everybody again. I hope once again everyone had a good holiday. Have a wonderful weekend. Let's see what the end of the year has for us. Have a great day.